All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here. This is Carrie McMullen. She's our associate executive director here. Good to be with you all tonight on another fine Saturday night. Welcome to all of you joining us online, on YouTube or Facebook, whatever state you're joining us from, even country. As we found out, Tammy reminded me a couple weeks ago, like Africa and India and, well, you know, not that Africa, someone's going to call me on that. Africa's not a country. I get it, y'all. I'm just, it's geography, and we're here to do recovery. So, woo! All right, to remind y'all, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction. We create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And as always, there's one thing we don't do here at Free. Y'all can shout it out on a count of three. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. We had a lively we don't do shame tonight, Carrie. Now, you got to follow that up with some things they might want to know about happening in the community. Is your mic on?
My mic is not on. It's on. There we go. Hello and welcome. If you are new here tonight, we are so glad that you are here. Connect with us after the service. Just outside of these doors, we have welcome bags. Inside the welcome bags, you'll find some fresh roasted Wagon coffee, thanks to the beautiful Tammy Canaday and her women at Wagon Coffee. We also have our Connect cards, how to get on our mailing list, stay connected to all the events we have coming up. And just the newsletter every single week, so you know who the guest storyteller is going to be, and you know what the theme's going to be. You also get these really cool Breaking the Silence of Addiction bracelets.
I got mine on.
Connect with us.
You know what? Why don't you use my mic for a moment?
Thanks. So come and connect with us and get a welcome bag. Next up, we have our Grounded Warrior Retreat on the 20th. It's a Sunday. It's from, I think it's 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Maggie Barfoot, who does, actually, she's no longer Barfoot, I believe. Madrano, sorry, Maggie. She just got married. Anyhow, she is putting on the Grounded Warrior Retreats, and that's lots of different practitioners. It's a great way to get in tune with your body, mind, spirit, all things recovery related. This Sunday is when prices go up, so be sure you register before Sunday. It's $68 for the early bird pricing. After that, it goes up to $79. You just need to Venmo Maggie, write your name, write your phone number, and she'll connect you with all of the details. Next up, the very next day, we have the Faith in Blue event. This is now our third year running. We have had our District 3 police department? I feel like they're called something more official than police department. Police department? Okay. Law enforcement, thank you. I knew there was a proper word, and we're talking about proper words today, so I wanted to make sure I said the right word. But the Faith in Blue will be here on Monday the 21st. Have a cup of coffee, have a casual conversation. Sometimes this is our first interaction with law enforcement. That might be a little bit positive. So it's a nice way to...
Everyone in this community has had positive experiences.
I will talk
They've been on the right side of the law.
I will talk about myself, that this is a nice way for me to have a positive experience with law enforcement officers. They're all very, very kind. It's a great way just to build connection, have a cup of coffee.
And they're very supportive of this community in particular and the mission of breaking the silence of addiction. They've been great.
Yeah, and that's all I got for you. So connect with us after, and we are here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. All right, y'all, the way we get started on a Saturday, are we clapping for, I think we should clap for Carrie. How about that? Well, the way we get started here on Saturday nights is with celebrations. We lift up the good, we start with the good. Maybe you have a sobriety anniversary or birthday or whatever the new thing is you're experiencing in your life, in your recovery. We celebrate it all here. New babies, new homes, new jobs, new last service it was someone getting out of prison. Whatever the new thing is, we celebrate it here. Nothing too big, nothing too small. Something profound happens when we celebrate together. God joins with us in the celebrations, and we get to do this together. If you're online, drop in your celebrations in the Facebook comments or YouTube comments. We'll join with you there. Ron has a mic on this side. Layla has one on this side. We take 3 minutes for this. Just raise up your hand. Give us the good news. This 3 minutes is yours.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and my mom and dad have waited a long time to hear this, but on Monday I celebrate 1 year sober.
Way to go, Sarah. Congratulations, 1 year.
Oh, hello, my name's Chris. Today is my 4 months clean milestone. Yeah.
Way to go, Chris. Glad you're here, brother. Congratulations on 4 months.
My name's Jim. Come next Saturday, I'll spend 50 years clean and sober.
50 years clean and sober, Jim. That's a great start. Keep coming back. Glad you're here.
My name is Marjorie, and I'll be celebrating 6 months this week.
6 months, Marjorie. Congratulations. 4 months, 6 months, 50 years. Who's next?
Steve, 60 days.
Way to go, Steve. Congratulations, brother. Happy 60.
I'm Anne Marie, and I'm celebrating 5 years. It just happened about a week and a half ago.
5 years, Anne Marie. All right. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Mike. 36 days.
Way to go, Mike. Glad you're here. 36 days. Big deal.
Real quick, my name is Layla. I just wanted to say I start Chic, which Kai Morris referred me to. I start on Monday. I got into the apprenticeship.
All right, Layla. Congratulations.
Hi, my name's Colby, and I just want to celebrate my friend Valerie. She just got out of jail, and instead of going back to doing whatever she's doing, she's here with us tonight at Free.
Way to go, Valerie. We're so glad you're here tonight. Ron,
Jacob.
after this one, we have someone in the front row. Just didn't want her to get missed.
I'm Jacob. This is my first time here, and I'm celebrating I lost 100 pounds.
Way to go, Jacob.
Welcome.
That's a good thing to celebrate. And glad you're here for the first time. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Robin, and when I got out of rehab in January, I got a puppy named Atticus, and he just turned 1 year today.
All right. Happy birthday to the puppy. We love puppies. Yes.
Hi, this is Carrie again. I just want to shout out one of our community members, board members, and a very significant person in my life. Courtney is her birthday tomorrow. And also Christy's birthday was earlier today, so I know she's tuning in again. So I just want to say happy birthday to you both.
Happy birthday, Christy and Courtney. Yeah.
Hey, my name is Kaizen, and I graduated Harbor Lights 2 weeks ago, my recovery program.
Hey, way to go, Kaizen. Good stuff, dude. Congratulations.
Hi, my name is Kimber. This is my first time here, and I just celebrated 9 months sober.
Way to go, Kimber. I'm glad you're here tonight. Welcome. Thank you, Layla and Ron. Hey, listen, lots of celebrations tonight, so if we didn't get to you, there's something really powerful about voicing your celebration, so don't leave here tonight without connecting with someone and letting them know what you're celebrating, even if it's something little. It's the little stuff's the big stuff. Y'all know that, right? Yeah. Tammy Canada, ladies and gentlemen.
Variety, holy moly.
I know.
Awesome, guys.
I mean, I love it that we can do 50 years, and who had 50-something days? 50, maybe it was 60-something. I don't know. We had a lot. Yes, it's very cool. Mm-hmm. All right, you want to take the online one first?
Yeah. Kayla says, I'm 163 days sober. Happy to be healthy.
Way to go, Kayla. And I just want to say a word about that. Kayla, I'm so glad you celebrate with us because we know that the journey has not been easy and what it's been like because you've been in this community. So thank you for celebrating. So important, so huge. Yeah, okay, Mike says, I'm celebrating since becoming abstinent from compulsive overeating 2.5 years ago. I not only lost 22 pounds, I also had a great physical with my blood work coming back normal. Way to go, Mike. Proud of you, man. Congratulations.
Hey, Mark says, celebrating 5 years of marriage, September 28th. So grateful that God saw fit that even after a separation because of my relapse, things are working out incredibly well now.
Way to go, Mark. Keep it up, buddy. Kaylin says, celebrating 1,026 days clean from meth and fentanyl. 3 weeks of marriage, and my husband and I sign a lease to a townhome on Monday. Congratulations, guys. That's the big stuff. The life of recovery right there. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Roy says, praising God, Mom and I are safe from the hurricane. Very devastating. Yeah, we've been praying a ton for you, Roy.
Yeah, for those of, well, let's celebrate that first because they're safe.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know Roy has been joining us for a long time now from North Carolina, and they got rocked. Their world was rocked from this recent hurricane.
And people that he wasn't able to get a hold of, he let me know yesterday, I think it was, Roy, that you got a hold of everybody, all your people that you were wondering where they were. So.
And we have a lot of people that join us here from North Carolina, so prayers for all of you. And I know it's not heartaches, but there's another hurricane moving towards Florida, and we have a lot of people joining us from Florida. I have family in Florida. Whew, man, the trauma that comes with just these constant hurricanes. So prayers for you and celebrating that you're safe. Okay. Is it my turn?
You got Kai.
It is. Kai says, congratulations, everyone, celebrating 568 days free of fentanyl. Way to go, Kai. Congratulations.
Okay.
Here we go.
We got Jen. She says, welp. Christy and I are headed to the courthouse this Friday. We are making our union official. I am blessed to walk through life with such an incredible, beautiful, kind, sweet, and loving woman. Yes, she is. I am truly blessed and thank God every day for her. We will have a ceremony at a later date. Awesome. Keep us
Way to
posted.
go, Jen and Christy. Love y'all. Congratulations.
Good.
All right, thank you, Tammy, for being up here. Well, if you've not joined us the last few weeks, you may not know that we've been in this series, and this is the last week of this series, by the way. We've been in this series called DARE, Confronting Controversies of Recovery. And yeah, we've gone into some big themes. Last week was boundaries. Woo! That can be a hard one, huh? And what I've learned in this series is there's going to be some things we follow up with. I'm still getting emails about the week we talked about cannabis here. And so it tells me there's going to be some follow-up with that. Maybe a panel discussion up here on a Saturday night would be a great idea. We'll talk later. Anyway, tonight, do y'all want to know what we're doing next week? Let me just say a word about where we're headed. So we do a series every year called What We Stand For. There's 4 things that we really stand for here. We'll go to battle for. And it's these 4 things: authenticity, recovery, no shame, and new life. So starting next week, we'll do a 4-week series on what we stand for, or kind of our core values here. Then we're going to do a series because November 6th is coming up. I'm assuming you all know what that day is. It's going to rock some people, I assume. And so we're going to spend 3 weeks talking about mind, body, and spirit, staying healthy, mind, body, and spirit. That has everything to do with your recovery, by the way. And then, man, we're getting into Advent and Christmas. How's that? It's like 85 degrees today, and Christmas is coming. Yes, it is coming. But tonight, the last week of this series, Confronting Controversies of Recovery, Noelle, thank you for giving the message tonight, Noelle. I've spent a few days in Utah with clergy colleagues called Orders Retreat. So Noelle is giving the message tonight, a very powerful message on the topic, is addict a dirty word? And then our guest storyteller, I can't wait for y'all to meet Jennifer Place. I'll say more about her in a bit, but we're going to have a great discussion tonight on is addict a dirty word? Here's the video.
I get angry just thinking about it makes me mad. Little kids doing drugs, it turns my stomach.
That's why I would never, ever take illegal drugs. You know, I've seen some people who smoke marijuana, and they seem to lose pride in their appearance.
Actually, Michael, the fact is that 1 in 18 high school seniors smokes marijuana daily. And then there are the occasional users which account
Get
for...
this through your CPU. They don't care about statistics.
You know, you're right. I've got it. Just tell them illegal drugs are bad, so don't mess with them.
Illegal drugs are bad news. Don't mess with them.
June 24th, 2019. You know, that morning, there was nothing crazy that happened. I didn't wake up in a strange spot. I wasn't overwhelmed with shame and guilt. I didn't get arrested. I didn't get a DUI. A meteor didn't hit and hell didn't freeze over. But it was one of those moments in my life that would change every single moment after it for me. See, I woke up with that morning with this big hangover. And somehow I pulled myself together and I got to work. And when I got to work, I went to the bathroom and I couldn't stand to look at myself in the mirror. And I had this sickness within me. And not like a sickness that you can sleep off or take some medicine, but this deep soul sickness within me. The kind of sickness that years of active addiction and alcoholism creates within you. And so I went back to my desk that morning, and I don't know what came over me, but I looked up the nearest AA meeting. I'd never been to a meeting before in my life, and there was a noon meeting right down the street. So when 12 o'clock rolled around, I got my purse and my keys, and I got in my truck, and I drove to this AA meeting. And I got there a bit early, and I'm sitting in this room, and there's this older gentleman in the room with me. And I'm sure he was looking at me with sympathy, but I saw pity. And he handed me this laminated sheet of paper. And on it, it was titled, How It Works. And he said, Noelle, I want you to read this today. And so the meeting had started. People started to fill up, and everyone was introducing themselves. And then it got to my time. And I don't know why, but I was compelled to say, hi, my name is Noelle, and I'm an alcoholic. It's the first time I'd ever said those words, especially out loud. And it was the first time in years that I had been honest with myself. You know, over the past couple of years, I've really noticed this shift in the language that professionals are using in the recovery community and in the recovery space. There's been a change in the words that are being used by those who suffer from addiction. You know, words like addict and alcoholic are being replaced with substance use. Addiction has been altered a bit to substance use disorder. And relapse has been changed to return to use. These are words that the National Institute of Drug Abuse put out. And then they followed up with this statement. And it reads, the word addict or alcoholic, it's stigmatizing, reducing a person's identity down to their struggle with substance use, and it denies their dignity and their humanity. In addition, these labels imply a permanency to the condition, leaving no room for change. It's better to use words that reinforce the medical nature of the condition. And then they go on to say, by using substance abuse disorder instead of addiction, this change shows that the person has a problem rather than is the problem. And so this shift in language, it begs the question, is addict a dirty word? Is alcoholic a dirty word? Addiction, is that a dirty word? You know, tonight I want to dive into Genesis 32. And before we do so, I want to give you a little bit of backstory here. This is a story about a guy named Jacob. And Jacob, it means a supplanter. It means a deceiver and a heel grabber. And in the ancient world, your name was your literal identity. So Moses, for instance, his name literally meant being drawn from the Nile River. Or Jesus, the salvation of God. Your name was your identity. And so Jacob, he was born a twin. It was Jacob and Esau. And they were born to Rebekah and Isaac. And scripture tells us that there was an unusual amount of movement in the womb. So Jacob, he wasn't even on earth yet, and he's already got some jalapeno in him. And Jacob was the second of these twins that were born. And he came out of the womb grabbing Esau's ankle. So also in the ancient world, the firstborn receives most, if not all, of the family inheritance. So Jacob is born already not comfortable with himself and already wanting more. You know, like if you're not first, you're last. And I wonder how many of you in here tonight feel like you have this predisposed identity. Like maybe you're a product of addiction or divorce or abuse, and you feel like no matter how hard you try to run from those labels, they just stick with you wherever you go and you can't shake it. So before leading up to Genesis 32, Jacob, he's constantly getting himself into trouble and in these predicaments, and he's a con artist and he's a schemer and he's on the run and he's running from his mess and his past. He's running from these labels that he's created for himself and ones that have been put on him. And during his run, he finds himself at the Jabbok River. So verse 21. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched. And as he wrestled with the man, then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And then the man asked, "What is your name?" So let's pause there for a second. Scholars tell us that Jacob was wrestling with an angel. It was Jesus reincarnated. Jacob's wrestling with God. And in this moment of wrestling, Jacob stops fighting. He just ceases, but he's clinging on. And he won't let go until he receives the help that he needs. See, that same tenacity that made Jacob a schemer and a con artist is now working for him for the good because he's using it in a different direction. How many of you have been in a position where you're just so sick and tired of being sick and tired that you're not going to let go until you receive the help that you need? You know, I can't put the bottle down. I can't quit getting high. I don't know where to go. Jacob, he answered. And he's not just saying, "My name's Jacob, it's nice to meet you." He's saying, "My name's Jacob. I'm a con artist. I'm a deceiver. I'm Jacob. That's just who I am." Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans, and you have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" And then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life has been spared." The sun rose above him, and he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. So when Jacob surrendered to the wrestling of God's plan and to his old life, he was given a new identity. Israel quite literally means to be triumphant with God. So Jacob went from being this con artist and this deceiver to being triumphant with God. You know, when you walk into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a lot of paradoxes that you'll hear. One is that you have to suffer to get well. Another is that you have to die to live. And my personal least favorite when I was first getting sober is that you have to surrender to win. See, being this has-been college athlete and this overly competitive person, the idea that I had to surrender to win, I had to wave my white flag to win, it just doesn't compete within me. Like, I am the pit bull clinging on until I get that gold medal. I don't give up. I don't surrender. Until it was explained to me that you have to surrender to win, to be on the winning team. You've got to set aside your addiction, Noel. You need to surrender to be on God's team. And what fascinates me most about this story, it's not Jacob's identity, from Jacob to Israel and God blessing him and giving him a new identity. What fascinates me most about this story is from Genesis 32 on in Scripture, God uses Jacob and Israel's name interchangeably in Scripture. And I couldn't figure out why we're given this beautiful story of new life, and from Jacob getting a new life to Israel, and why those two names are used interchangeably. And then it dawned on me. You know, change is complicated. New life, it's not this A to B path. And recovery and sobriety, peace and serenity, it's not always linear. See, a new identity doesn't mean that we still don't struggle. I've been sober 5 years now, but that doesn't mean that when I want to numb out, I don't find myself over-exercising or overspending or overeating. Those behaviors are still there. I had a woman earlier this week ask me if I was really cranky in early sobriety. And I said, "Girl, I was really cranky this morning." Just because we're given a new identity, it doesn't mean that we still don't struggle. But I think most importantly, why God uses Jacob and Israel's name interchangeably throughout Scripture is because we need to take the Jacob with us on our Israel journey. You know, there's a little Jacob in the worst of us and a little Israel in the best of us. And it's up to us if that's going to be an asset or a liability, if that's going to be something that we live in shame about, or if we're able to use that as our testimony and create a survival kit for the next person, how we got through that. Is addict a dirty word? Well, it depends. Do you have shame around it? Or are you using it as your testimony? You know, I got sober in a new meeting when the median age was about 65 years old. And it was exactly what I needed at that time, but there was no one in this meeting that looked like me. Until one day, Maggie Medrano, she walked in. She does that grounded warrior retreat. She helps Tammy with Wagon Coffee and does our trauma-informed yoga. And I'd never seen someone come into that meeting who was anywhere close to my age. And I look at her, and she's this tall brunette. I'm a tall brunette. And she's got a lot of tattoos, and I've got a lot of tattoos. But she looked happy. And I looked like I got hit by a bus. Like I looked miserable. And the first words I heard out of Maggie's mouth were, "Hi, I'm Maggie, and I'm an alcoholic." And that was this simple introduction, but it moved mountains for someone like me. Someone in early recovery with 10 days sober, just trying to hang on. You know, it instantly created a common bond for us and this connection between us. See, what I didn't know then is that's the essence of recovery, is saying your truth and someone else saying, "Yeah, me too. That was me too." Having Maggie walk in that room that day and say, "I'm Maggie, and I'm cross-addicted." Or, "Hey, I'm Maggie, and I've got a substance use disorder." Or, "I'm Maggie, and I'm a person in recovery." I would have been sitting in that meeting asking a lot more questions. Like, what are you cross-addicted to? You have a substance use disorder to what? What are you recovering from? You know, in that moment, that was so profound for someone like me that I knew that Maggie and I, we suffered from the same disease, and she looked like she had a solution. And I knew where to go if I wanted to find that solution. And today, you know, I think it's my responsibility, and it's our responsibility to pass along recovery the same way that it was so freely given to me. And that begins with taking our Jacob with us on our Israel journey. You know, my name is Noelle, and I'm an alcoholic. We do this for the newcomer, for the people who are still struggling. Am I an alcoholic? Yeah. Am I someone who's always going to need to be in recovery? Also, yes. But have I recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body? Hell yes, I have. You know, I'm not the same woman 5 years ago who couldn't look herself in the mirror with shaky hands and just was disappointing everyone in my life, but most importantly, me. I'm not that same person. And it's true if you struggle with drugs or an eating disorder or marijuana or narcotics or cocaine or codependency. If you're a loved one or a spiritual refugee, we are all recovering from something. And I think when we call it for what it is, it allows our common bond to grow. And we're allowed to be connected with one another, and it doesn't dilute our purpose for being there. You know, after that meeting, I went up to Maggie and I told her I was just clinging on. I was just trying to not go to the liquor store after every meeting. And you know what she did? She gave me her phone number. And she started to invite me to these sober women game nights. And we started to meet up at different meetings. We started to go to lunch together. And she started to connect me with other women who were also alcoholics. And suddenly, almost accidentally, this community had started to form around me. And I started to build connections with other women who not only shared the same affliction that I did, but we also shared the same solution. You know, almost everything that I knew about addiction, it was wrong. If you get a rat and you put a rat in a cage with 2 bottles of water, one of just water, and 1 bottle laced with either cocaine or heroin, that rat will almost always prefer the drug water, and it will almost always kill itself almost immediately. And then Professor Alexander came along, and he looked at this experiment, and he realized that the rat was being put in this cage, and he was isolated. So you know what he did? He built Rat Park for this experiment. And I imagine it was a lot like Disneyland, and like there was a Ferris wheel and a lot of little rat buddies and some games that they were playing. But so he built Rat Park. And the same 2 water bottles were in this cage, one with water and one laced with cocaine or heroin. And the rats didn't gravitate towards the drug water in that scenario. So you go from almost 100% overdose when these rats are isolated to almost 0% when they're living happy, healthy, connected lives. See, what I learned in the early months of recovery was addiction has a lot to do with my adaptation of my environment. You know, human beings, we have this deep, inept need to connect with one another and to bond, and when we're living these happy, connected lives. But if we've been traumatized or isolated or we've been beat down by life, we're much more likely to go bond with something negative, some quick fix to fill that void within us. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. Is addict a dirty word? Well, it depends. Are you using it as a crutch to remain isolated, or are you using it as an opportunity to create a connected life and community? See, there's this philosopher, and his name is Carl Sandburg. And Sandburg talks about how there's one variable over the course of history that has led to the demise of civilizations. So for thousands of years, there's been one common thread, whether that was like an Aztec society or Roman Empire. One thing that has led to the demise of these civilizations. And you know what that is? They forgot where they came from. And so whether that was some innovative technology like a bow and arrow, or maybe there was a breakdown in trade routes or religious or political upheaval that caused that community to crumble, but when you boil it all down, they forgot where they came from. They forgot the foundation that made them who they were and it made them successful to begin with. See, I'm an alcoholic, and I never want to forget that. I never want to forget my hands shaking and not being able to look in the mirror. I never want to forget those multiple arrests and not being able to put the bottle down. What I put my family through and my friends through. I never want to forget that soul sickness that was inside of me. Because if I forget where I came from, I forget where I'm going. And if I forget where I'm going, I'm out there for a drink. And for someone like me, that's life or death. So you won't hear us at Free use words like substance use or substance use disorder or return to use. And it's not because those words are wrong. It makes sense for treatment centers and addiction professionals and health, even some of our peers, to use those. And they're not wrong. And we don't disagree with them. We're just not mental health professionals here at Free. We are on the front lines of this disease, and we use words like addict and alcoholic and addiction and relapse because we don't want to forget where we came from. So if you're someone tonight wondering if addict or alcoholic is a dirty word, I encourage you to just go ask my people. You know, ask Layla or Jake, ask Carrie, ask Robin, ask Ryan, ask Carrie. And I would bet that they would say that it's not a dirty word. Go ask my people. You know, my sobriety, it turned 5 years old this past June. And that morning I woke up and I sipped on strong coffee. I ate some chocolate chip pancakes and I went on a long walk where I was immediately soaked by sprinklers. And if I were to explain what 5 years of sobriety feels like, it feels just like that. It feels like chocolate chip pancakes and strong coffee and summer morning sprinklers. Is addict a dirty word? Maybe. But without my addiction, I wouldn't have my recovery, and I wouldn't have the peace that you acquire when you stay fully present in a moment and you're fully involved in each and every moment that passes you by. You know, today I'm able to stick with the pain and the beauty in life, and that is no doubt a superpower. And it's a superpower that I wouldn't have been able to achieve otherwise. See, I see this light in my friends. I see this light in all of you and the people that I've come across in my recovery journey. Rumi said that the cure for the pain is in the pain. The cure for the pain is in the pain. And I think what he meant by that is the exact way that we are to transform the world. The exact way that we are to transform ourselves is by being in every single moment, fully present without escape routes. Recovery isn't a have to, it's a superpower. And to those of you who do not wish for addiction to be your thing or alcoholism to be your thing, for those of you who cannot fathom that superhero part, that superpower part, I promise you that's just what it is. You know, if quitting drinking or drugs or an eating disorder or marijuana or narcotics or cocaine or codependency, if it feels hard, it's because those things are hard. Those things are very hard. Becoming is hard, but on the flip side of that same coin, staying is hard. As an addict, I used my entire life was trying to avoid the hard. But I had to learn that the hard is where we are found. And if you want to run, just remember that this community, this place, this is what you've been looking for. And I promise you that you are enough to stay. Is addict a dirty word? Well, not if you're using it as your superpower. You know, there's this song, this YouTube. We've been playing a lot of Jelly Roll, and so naturally I'm going to play Jelly Roll tonight. And this YouTube video has been going on and going around, and I sent it to Ryan, and Ryan's like, "You're the 5th person to send that to me this week." And as Ryan and I were getting ready for service at like 3:30 today, another woman sent it to Ryan, and you know, if God's telling you to play a song, I think you just got to play it. So here's Winning Streak by Jelly Roll.
Some more Jelly Roll, ladies and gentlemen. He's good, though, isn't he? Mm-hmm. We might do a Jelly Roll song again next week. Maybe not, maybe not. We'll diversify. Thank you for your message, Noel. Thank you for tonight. Yeah. You know, I was reminded last service, we started free in 2018, and then this thing happened, remember COVID-19 in 2020? The first person we brought on board here at Free was, and he's still here, Danny Colella, our digital content director. I mentioned Danny to say, I remember one day in 2020, we were down in his basement filming a video, which sounds way different than what you think. It was actually a video about the mission here at Free. And when I tell stories about his basement, he's like, dude, you got to stop saying we film videos in the basement. It's a home studio. So there you go, Danny. We were in his home studio. And after the video, I'll never forget this day, he said, dude, you know we're going to get busted for this, right? And I'm like, busted for what? Like, we're helping people. He said, no. We say we stand for. Like, we're a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And I said, yeah, what are we going to get busted for? He said, well, we shouldn't be using the word addicts. And I'm like, but dude, I'm an addict, and that's who we stand for. That's who we fight for here. And I'll never forget what he said after the conversation when I was saying, man, those are the people we want to fight for here. And he said, yeah, me too. And so we're very intentional with this language of addiction and addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. But I'm also not stupid enough to realize that there are other ways and other contexts in which we talk about this thing called addiction or substance use disorder. If I'm at a conference, speaking at a professional conference, well, I might use different language. I'm going to keep it contextual. Know your people. Speaking of people, I can't wait for y'all to meet Jennifer Place tonight. She is the senior program manager at the Colorado Consortium. She's also a professor at UCD, where she teaches courses on addiction counseling. And she describes herself, get this, she describes herself as a language snob, which makes her the perfect person to be here tonight. Help me welcome Jennifer Place, ladies and gentlemen. So good to have you back here, Jen. Well, back here from the 5 o'clock. Man, we had such a fun conversation last time because you're teaching us all kinds of things about why language is important and why it's important to you. But before we get to the whole language discussion, tell us a little bit about, raise your hand, by the way, if you don't know what the Colorado Consortium is. Okay, good. That's why I want to ask you this question. What is the Colorado Consortium?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me here tonight to talk about what we do, but also to talk about this important thing called language and my snobbiness around that. At the Consortium, we're affiliated with the University of Colorado. We're housed on the Anschutz Medical Campus, and we work in all 64 counties across the state to work with grassroots coalitions, up to state legislators and policymakers, really trying to do things that make sense to, what I like to say, make recovery the center of the universe. And so really creating recovery-oriented systems of care. So that's what we do. We don't do any direct services, but we're trying to create systems that value recovery, that promote recovery, and prevent folks from being stigmatized so that they don't start on that journey.
Yes, I was actually fascinated when Jen and Carrie and I met earlier this week. We have so much in alignment with our missions of breaking down barriers of shame, breaking down barriers of stigma. We'll get into that too. Look at me jumping ahead already. But before we get into that actual content, because I think it's so important that people understand where you're coming from, that you've actually got a story around this. I know you grew up in a home where you had people in your life with alcoholism, addiction, substance use disorder. So much so, you said, I never want to work with those people, and look at you now. So what happened? What was the turning point?
turning point for me was when I was getting my master's degree. They always ask folks when we're in mental health professions, well, who do you want to work with? What do you want to do? And then also, who are you not comfortable working with? And so, yeah, you're right. I had said at some point, I don't want to work with the addicts or the alcoholics because I hadn't done my own work around that. I also had never seen recovery. I didn't know that was a thing until I was actually doing part of my internship. I was leading a therapy group or support group for individuals who were healthcare professionals with substance use disorder, with addiction. And it was the first time I saw recovery. And I saw a group of some of the most amazing, brilliant, self-aware, generous, and vulnerable humans that I had ever seen. And so it was like, from that moment on, I was like, these are the folks that I want to work with. This is the work I want to do. And so I had to go do some of my own work around that, but then 20 plus years in my career, I've never looked back.
And you're not doing private practice work right now, correct?
No, just the systems level work at the consortium. I took we call them like the trenches. I stepped out of the trenches doing direct clinical work about 7 years ago because of my own mental health and burnout and that kind of thing, but still doing the work, but at the systems level.
Okay, so language is incredibly important to you, and you've also got a story around that, but calling yourself when we got the email this week, or a couple weeks ago when we were asking Jennifer to be the guest storyteller, she said, well, I don't know, I'm kind of a language snob, and Carrie and I both were like, oh, that's perfect that's what we want. We want another perspective, which has been so important in this series, by the way, to get other perspectives. So why is language in this area, why is it so important to you? Why does it matter?
What we're trying to do, and again, we have more similarities than we do differences in
Yeah.
this space, is we're trying to dismantle or demolish stigma. The thing that prevents folks from acknowledging that they might need help themselves, the things that prevent folks from stepping into places like this, or maybe going to treatment or calling some support. We want to dismantle that, and our words have an impact on that. It's incredibly important. As I mentioned, I work for the consortium. The long name is the Colorado Consortium for Prescription Drug Abuse Prevention.
Is that still the name of it?
It is.
That's still
It
okay.
is. So I said in my interview, because I knew that my boss, or my soon-to-be boss, I said, when are we going to pull abuse out of the name? And it was like, well, it's going to happen, but it's going to take an act of Congress, it seems, to make that happen. But I have hope. And the reason I don't like the word abuse is because it does talk about, it's this good or bad. It's this diabolical character. It's this perpetrator, this villain. And what we know is that individuals who develop addiction, they're not villains. They're suffering from trauma. They need healing, they need help, they need love. And so framing them as abusers, or, it's just, we need to pull that word out of, our conversations when it comes to using substances.
Yeah. So help us understand, what are some of the other no-nos in the professional world, or words or phrases we should be aware of and their meaning?
And rather than to start with the no-nos, I want to start with the do's.
Yeah, okay.
The do's are use person-first language, and what I mean by that is, it's the person with the addiction. It's the person with schizophrenia. It's the person struggling with relationships. It's person first. We should not be labeling folks who, are coming out of or in a carceral setting, like, oh, it's a convict. No, it's like a person involved in the criminal system. It's a person struggling with substance use disorder. Again, we're lots of things, right? And so when we, I love Noelle's message. It's the, bringing both. And there's ways that we can do that without perpetuating this negative stereotype around folks who are struggling.
So, and we talked about this last service, but I think it's worth talking about again, because I'm always under the assumption when someone cares a lot about something, they've got a story around it. They've got some defining moment that has been the aha, this is why this matters, this is why I care about this. What was, and there's probably more than one, right? But what was one defining moment in your work that helped you understand the importance?
So in the mental health profession, we're trained, use the language that your clients use. And doing work in addiction, I soon found out no, I couldn't abide by that. I couldn't do it because, again, I'm seeing folks coming in early recovery. I'm seeing folks come in with so much shame and barely look you in the eye and said, you know what, you're not going to call yourself a junkie in this space. This space is only for healing. This space is for who you are going to be. This is not for who you were before. Yeah. And so I tried to instill that in all the folks that I've worked with, and even today in the communities that I'm talking with. But in that clinical moment, I'll never forget, I had a client who had messaged me at some point and said, you know what, I was going into this room and I was about ready to say, I'm a junkie, which is like nails on a chalkboard for me. And then she said, but then you were right there on my shoulder. And I knew I didn't have to do that anymore. And it was like, yes. She had taken, and I love Noelle's comment earlier about the superpower piece, because I've always talked with training my students who are going to be working with this really vulnerable population that everyone who develops a substance use disorder, not only do they have trauma, but that trauma leads to shame. And so when you think about Superman coming out of the phone booth with this big S underneath, for folks, again, especially in early recovery, that S doesn't stand for Superman, it doesn't stand for superpower, it stands for shame. And so we need to do everything we can to make those spaces healing, to let them know you gotta dig deep, you gotta do the work, and you gotta get rid of that shame until you can own that S as the superpower that it is. And for folks, it takes time. And so in that moment, I love that my client was able to do that. It was a pivotal moment for them to say, you know what? I'm doing away with that old language, and this is who I am now.
Yeah, beautiful story. And y'all do know the number one thing that keeps people from reaching out for help is shame or stigma. It's the number one reason that keeps people from reaching out. Tell us about Robert Ashford.
Robert Ashford. I'm such a groupie of Robert Ashford's.
Google him.
Google Robert Ashford. Started a beautiful, amazing organization called Unity Recovery out in Pennsylvania. PhD, brilliant mind, and developed this beautiful word, I guess, graphic, which they're going to show up on the screen. Image. And that's something that has really guided my work in all the systems level and teaching that I do. And it really talks about how and why, maybe not so much the why, but the do's and don'ts. Where is it safe for me to say alcoholic, addict? Where is it appropriate for me to do that? And maybe where should I not be doing that? Because at the end of the day, in knowing your audience, as you mentioned earlier, if I'm talking with somebody, do they get me? Do they understand what those words mean? Do they understand when I say I'm Jen and I'm alcoholic, which that's not what I'm saying, but just for folks in that room, that there is so much pride in that. There is so much resiliency. There is so much honor when folks are standing up with solid recovery behind them, when they've adopted that superpower and they can say that. In the rooms, in safe spaces, but outside these rooms in less safe spaces or with folks who don't understand addiction, they don't understand what that S stands for, it builds stigma. And I'll have my students do this, really kind of the very first get-go, and other audiences too, but, have them close their eyes for a minute and say, think of the word addiction, think of the word alcoholic, think of the word addict, and what do you see? Who do you see? How do you feel? And a lot of individuals outside of these safe spaces, they're not seeing Ryan up here with a beautiful family and building beautiful spaces like this. They're seeing a loved one or a friend or maybe a stranger at the bottom of their experience, at the worst of their disease. And it doesn't build positive emotions. And that's not what we want to be perpetuating out there if we're talking in the community, if we're talking with the press, if we're talking on social media, because the majority of folks out there, they don't get it. They don't understand. And so sometimes those words can help, or just builds or grows some of those misperceptions that they already have, or those stereotypes.
Yeah, and I think there's this there's this thinking out there that's like, oh my goodness, do we really got to change our language? What is this, some sort of part of the woke culture, and we're not doing that? And what you're talking about isn't that. It isn't just changing words or not using words to be better than or to take some sort of pedestal. It's to actually not cause harm, to actually be a place of healing, to take something that has been so harmful and say, we're not going to harm people anymore. We're gonna change that. And so thank you for helping us understand that. What's well, anything else you want to say? Any other no-nos or things you think we should understand?
Well, and there's another graphic too that they may show up here behind my head, but if not, there's a great resource through Denver Health called Words Matter, which looks a lot like this. This is a bit of a simplified version, but again, it's rather than saying this, say this. And it's, again, we want to stay away from the good and the bad. That's the whole thing we're trying to get away from, dirty, clean. It's things that are recovery focused or less recovery focused, or maybe recovery prohibitive in a lot of spaces. And so Denver Health, Words Matter, Google their website, a lot of great resources. At the consortium, we have a lot of great resources too. But remember that person first, because we're all so much more than our past and our disease.
Yeah. So Jennifer, in closing, what's a word of wisdom you would leave with us for those watching tonight, maybe in another state, another country? Maybe they're sitting in their living room and they're the ones who are barely hanging on. They're the ones who are crying out for help but don't know how to actually get it. And maybe that could be you here tonight too, in-house. But what do you leave us with? What words of wisdom?
Do some digging and find those definitions on what these terms mean to you. And if you can find even an ounce of that shame in there, get rid of it. Do what you can. You know that you don't have to adopt those words. You can adopt different words that don't have that flavor of stigma until you can adopt that superhero model, because that's really what recovery offers you. Yeah. Also find those folks that stand up and say, who are recovering out loud and proud, I'm an addict. Find those folks. Help them help you change your definitions and know that you are loved, you are worth recovery, and you have all the support that you need if you can reach out and tap into it, which I'm so thankful for this space and all of you providing that avenue for folks.
Thank you, Jennifer, for being with us tonight. Jennifer Place, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you so much. So good to have you. I'll take that, yeah. All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Well, hey, the way we close things down on a Saturday night here at Free is very similar to how we begin. We begin with celebrations, but we close with heartaches. Maybe you've been carrying a burden this week and it's getting heavy and you've been trying to carry it alone, and we say you don't have to do that. It's why you have community. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So we'll take 3 minutes for this, and Ron, I'll get you. Do we have another mic? Oh, Carrie has it. We'll take 3 minutes. If you need some prayer, some encouragement, some lifting up, this 3 minutes is for you. If you're online tonight, you can drop your heartaches in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, just like we do for celebrations. We'll heartache with you there, and we'll take 3 minutes. You can just raise up your hand. This time is yours.
My name is Layla. I just want to send a shout out to the people that lost their homes in the hurricane, and also to the ones that are still dealing with addiction and having devastating moments in their life as well. Any type of loss is a loss, so just keep them up in prayer.
Yeah, thank you for lifting them up, Layla. Right. Very important heartache tonight and this week.
My name's Cy. I have a friend and colleague who returned to use recently and is really struggling with his recovery. So some prayers out to him that we can get him into a safe space, and also some prayers for me. I may have to take care of his dog, which would give me 3 dogs, and that would be a little bit of a push for me.
Prayers for him and you.
Willing to do.
Yeah. Right. Thanks, Cy. Ron, right behind you.
My name is Elizabeth, and I just wanted to say I work for a rehab center, and I drive a 14-passenger van, and we were struck 10 days ago. We were struck by a drunk driver, and it totaled our 14-passenger van, and people did get injured. And I just would like prayer for the person who struck our van, 23-year-old young man. I do not know his name, but prayers for him, and then also for my facility, that healing would take place there. It was very traumatic. There were 10 people in the van at the time of the accident. So prayers for complete healing, and then restoration, new vehicle, all those things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Healing and restoration all the way around. Thank you for that. Prayers, yeah.
I'm Kim, just lifting my daughter Demi up again. She's just still struggling with her addiction. And prayers for the mothers and fathers of the addicts that suffer so much. I've just in a lot of pain over her addiction. I just love her so much.
Yep. Thanks, Kim. Prayers for you and her. Ron, right up here on the couch. Oh, we got one in the back. All right.
Yeah, my name is Ray. I just wanted to see if everybody could send out prayers to my buddy Marcus. He's in a sober living house with me. He just was paralyzed last night. He got a cyst on his spine, and now he's sitting in the hospital. You know, hard timing, man. So if everybody could just send prayers out to Marcus. Thank you.
All right, Marcus, lifting you up, brother. Thanks for that, Ray.
Hey, I'm Austin. Fresh into recovery. I'm in an inpatient right now, and I just like prayers, considering I'm fresh in recovery, for me and all the guys that I'm with. But yeah.
All right, Austin, glad you're here tonight, man. That's a big deal. Glad you're here. Lifting you up. Did we have one more? Oh, Robin had one more. Robin, you had your hand up for a while. You want to say it? Yeah. Ron, you want to get her a mic?
I just want prayer. It's for myself, just for God's direction in my life, and for him. I keep praying for him to know my anxious thoughts, and so guidance.
Guidance. All right, Robin. And we've got one more. You get to take us out.
Hey, I'm Alex. I haven't been sober since I was 14. I'm 27. I could use some guidance and some prayers for sure. I just lost by far the best job I ever had, and I don't know what to do with myself, so I'm trying to figure that out.
All right, brother. I'm glad you're here. You are the first one to say I've been sober since 14. I have not heard that. I've heard 15 before, but 14. Good for you, dude. And prayers for you. Oh, you haven't been sober since 14. Okay, that changes the story a little bit, but still prayers for you. I'm still glad you're here too. I was like, damn, how do you get sober at 14? Okay. It does happen though. Glad you're here, dude. Tam, you want to join me up here? Thank you, Layla and Ron. Shall we join our online people? You want the first one?
Sure.
All right.
Roger says, please pray for a friend whose husband passed away from a catastrophic bicycle accident, leaving behind a wife and 2 children under 14.
So sorry to hear this, Roger. Prayers for them, man, lifting them up. Kayla says, some nights I stress over forgiving myself for past decisions I have made. On those nights, I pray loudly for peace, calmness, and a blanket of self-love. What a beautiful prayer, Kayla. Yeah, we could all pray that one. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Christy says prayers for our neighbor's daughter, Kate. She's having surgery Tuesday, and they're hoping she does not have ovarian cancer.
All right.
Prayers, friend.
Prayers for Kate. Jen says, there's such a heaviness in our hearts. Hurricane Helene made landfall in Florida at a Category 5. We have many friends in Florida. Tampa's my hometown. Then it made its way to North Carolina. What's WNC? Oh, Western North Carolina probably was hit the hardest. Complete towns are gone. That's hard to fathom. Many lives have been lost. Many, many animals, domestic and wild, gone. Please pray for all the areas that are dealing with such devastation. We are so grateful that our friends and family are safe, but so many can't say the same, and that's heavy. Yes, thank you for pointing out the heaviness, Jen. Prayers for all of them, and glad you all are safe. Glad you're joining us tonight. All right, thanks, Tam, for joining me up here. Well, hey, if you've been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, if you call this place, or your people, or your tribe, your community, your home, whatever you call this place, I hope you know we are so grateful for your generosity here. We encourage your generosity here if you call this place home. We are funded by you, the people. So you keep us going, and every week I will tell you thank you for that. It makes a huge difference here. Thank you for those of you that have given sacrificially. You've given as a spiritual practice in your life. It's very moving to me. It's inspiring to see the giving in this community week in and week out, and thank you. It truly makes a difference here. If you would like to donate to Free, there's a couple of different ways to do it. You could download the app, Free Recovery Community. There's all of our contents on that app, messages, guest storytellers. There's a giving button. You can give one time, or you can set it up to do weekly or monthly. We're grateful for those givings too. You could jump to the website, freerecoverycommunity.com, and do the exact same thing. And there are the giving kiosk, one beside these doors for cash and check type people, and there's another giving kiosk just outside these doors. And I like to tell you every week there is the dip jar. It's just outside these doors. It's a little machine that sits on a black table by the front doors. And it's you dip your credit card in, you dip it out, it lights up, you get to feel good about your giving. You can't give more than 20 or less than 20. It's set at $20. It's a fun, easy way to give. All of these ways are safe and secure, and really we are grateful for your giving here. It makes a difference. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shall we go out with a prayer? Yeah, I think we should. I would invite you to just open up the hands. It's a simple sign of openness. Maybe you're open to a new way tonight. Maybe you're open to say, I'm here and I don't have all the answers. I don't have it all figured out, but Spirit is moving and breathing in me, through me, all around me. Yeah, so take just a big, deep breath. Yeah, you're here. You're here, and it's a gift. If you don't know the Serenity Prayer, we'll pray it together. It's on your screen, and it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Grace and peace. See y'all next time.